Oh, here we go. All right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. It is May 19th. I really can't believe how fast the month of May has gone by. Um, and certainly really appreciate all the hard work of everybody in Springfield. May is, of course, the most busiest month of Springfield. It is the last month before we pass our budget. So, certainly a lot has been going on in Springfield. We have a guest today, but before that, want to give a shout out to remind everybody that next Monday is Memorial Day. And Memorial Day is a time to honor those that are no longer with us that gave the ultimate sacrifice for our country. We will not have a Facebook Live on Memorial Day. What I do on Memorial Day is I go with the Aurora American Legion. We go to four different cemeteries in the Aurora area, giving the 21 gun salute and honoring those that paid the ultimate sacrifice. And then the city of Aurora has their Memorial Day parade and remembrance. So there will not be a Facebook Live on Monday, Memorial Day, the 26th. However, the mug of the day, because in lieu of our wonderful guest speaker, Frank Gutierrez, a United States Marine Corps, and he also did a little bit in the Army Reserve. I have my little Semper Fi mug. And on the other side of it, it has a little bit of an oorah for all those Marines
Hoorah.
out there. So certainly want to appreciate all those that have served. But again, Memorial Day is a special day to honor our Gold Star families and the individuals that have given so much for our freedom and for our country. So again, that is next Monday. So with that, we do have a guest speaker this month. This month is Military Appreciation Month, and we appreciate all those who have served and certainly want to highlight one veteran that I've gotten to know that I appreciate very well. Frank Gutierrez. He's a veteran, 23 years of combined service, as I said, from the Marine Corps, the best corps, and the Army Reserve. He began his service in 1999, so a little bit after I ended my tour of duty. But he's held leadership roles in combat engineering, psychological operations, strategic communications, in support of national defense missions. He's gotten numerous honors, including the Bronze Star Medal, Army Commendation Medals, and the Army Achievement Medals. And he has dedicated his life to veterans, pretty much on every level of government. He's on the Veteran Advisory Council for the City of Chicago, the Illinois Department of Veterans Affairs, and the Illinois Secretary of State. As president of the Veterans Assistance Commission in Cook County, he has overseen critical expansions to better support one of the nation's largest veterans population. I think has over 100,000 veterans in that area. And then he's at Chicago Transit Authority. We've talked a little bit about transit from time to time. The General Assembly is looking at our transit situation. There is a funding gap. They call it the transit cliff. And we've been working in regards to that funding, but it's on a different aspect that he leads the coordination efforts, and he founded the Veteran Employee Resource Group. So it's made a major role in veteran hiring, retention. He's the founder and president of the Veteran Chamber of Commerce, which is a nonprofit, and it's the only Illinois-based chamber of commerce focused solely on veteran-owned and military spouse businesses. And then he's a civic leader, co-chairs the Union League Club of Chicago's Military and Veterans Affairs Subcommittee, advancing public education and community involvement around military service and veteran contributions. If you're tired, I'm tired. I thought I was a busy person, but Frank is I don't know when you sleep, Frank, but just want to welcome Frank onto our Facebook Live and also our podcast, Coffee with Kiffy. So welcome aboard, Frank.
Hey, welcome, or thank you. Thank you for having me on, Representative Kifowit. And yeah, if you see the bags and the coffee, that's how I keep it going.
I think that's how everybody keeps it going. A little bit of coffee and a little bit of momentum, and off we go. So, do you want to share just a little bit? I know I read that huge bio, but you want to share a little bit about like what makes you tick, what your passions are, how how your military service intertwines with what you're doing today. We've heard a lot that veterans are mission oriented and their service doesn't end when their contract ends. So you want to go into a little bit more detail about all the stuff you got going on in your neck of the woods.
Well, first, I kind of want to go over, what actually made me join the military. Being first generation American, I was raised to, love this country, by my immigrant parents. And my big influence in my life was my uncle Jesse. He served in Force Recon during Vietnam and later became Hugh Hefner's personal bodyguard and spent over 30 years with the Chicago Police Department once he decided to settle down and have a family. Uh, it's hard not to look up to him, and it's kind of like one of the things I wanted to do was follow in his footsteps. Like you said, I enlisted in 1999, which, it was a different time. It was a different time. I didn't join for the same reasons many did after 9/11. At that time, the world was relatively peaceful. And in hindsight, I have a lot of respect for those that joined, after the World Trade Center because they joined a military knowing that they were going to be going to war. I know uh, my first deployment was in Iraq. I was a combat engineer, squad leader for Breach Point South, and a few months into the deployment, I recall, President Bush, you know, he stood there and said, "Mission accomplished." And not long after that, yeah, many of us that were stop lost started heading back home. But while I was packing, while I was getting ready to leave my platoon, one of the Marines came up to me from my company outside of a different platoon, and he was offered a chance to extend and work with EOD. Yeah, he really wasn't sure what to do and came to me for advice. And I told him, how valuable the experience would be and how much more he'd have to offer the Marines when he got home. Unfortunately, he took me up on that offer, and he was killed in a mine clearing operation on July 2nd, 2003, and that loss kind of stuck with me. It's one of the reasons why I stayed in the reserve, because it never really was about doing my 20 and retire. It was about finishing the mission and making sure that everyone got home. After the last American plane left Afghanistan, I was already caring for my father during his battle with cancer. And at that point, I knew, Iraq was over, Afghanistan was over. And, at that point, so was my military career. And so I put in for retirement. But yeah, going into the reserve was kind of different, especially going into the Army Reserve. One of the biggest difference I noticed was the friendships that I formed in the Army. Surprisingly, I grew stronger bonds in the Army, friendships that still exist today. Because, well, one, we were all living co-located. Two, when I was in the Marine Corps, I was an E5 living in the barracks, 22 years old, and my peers were a little older than me. They were married, they were living in the base housing, or they were living, off post, and I was stuck. I was E5 living with Lance Corporals, PFCs, and privates. So, barracks life, it was kind of, I was like the big brother, big father. If anything went wrong, it was my fault. So I maintained that professionalism, and I didn't really get to hang out with the people that were surrounding me. That being said, Army Reserve is a little different. Privates call sergeants by their first name sometimes. And especially in psychological operations, at that time, it still fell under Special Operations Command. And yeah, everybody was, at that time, I thought everybody was just nasty. But as the years went on, everybody kind of grew on me. Most of my friends that I've met in the Army, we've served several tours together overseas. I've known them for a couple decades already. Went to weddings, baptismals, funerals, divorce parties, second weddings, third weddings. And so it was like, it was more than being in the military. It was actually family. But I do miss the Marine Corps. I miss the camaraderie, esprit de corps. And whenever there was something messed up in the Army, I would always say, you guys, we used to do it like this. We, as in the Marine Corps. And, although I spent a little over 4 years out of my 23 in the Marine Corps, it was something that never left me. So I even refer to myself as 23 years retired Army Reserve, Marine for life. And I'm actually looking forward to November 10th this year. 250 years. It's going to be wild.
Oh, it is, and we have some resolutions in the House that we hope to get passed either this week or next week. So certainly, I'm always celebrating the Marine Corps every day, as you mentioned. But as you know, I might not know, my son's in the Navy, so I have to honor the Navy and his service. He's been in 6 years now, and my son-in-law is actually in the Army Reserves. He's called up. He's in Africa right now, but he's supposed to be come back in July. So I have to give some deference to the other services. I don't have any Coast Guard or Air Force or Space Force in the family, but I have three of the six now. So certainly I have to give a little bit more deference to the other branches. So but thanks so much for sharing your story, which really parlays to how dedicated we are. I work very hard for the veteran community here in the Aurora area, and you're working very hard in the veteran community there in the Chicago area that you're in, and in your statewide appointments. And so I guess you could say, how are you continuing to serve now that you've left active duty and Army Reserve time? Now you're still on active duty, I would say, by all the stuff you have going on your plate.
Yeah, a lot of it still feels like psyop for some reason. I was always on, usually most of the time I was on a tactical psyop team, and that really consisted. I mean, my first deployment, I was 23, finding myself in key leader engagements in the Middle East. That alone was a challenge. Because I was Roman Catholic, single, clean shaven guy with no kids, sitting across government officials, religious leaders, warlords, sheikhs, who were often at times 3 times my age, with multiple wives, large families. Earning their respect wasn't easy. And over time it got easier. As I got older, conversations became more natural. Growing a decent mustache helped too. But most importantly, I learned how to listen. We talked about, what the communities needed, what was standing in their way, and how we could work together to improve their quality of life. And it was more about building trust and finding common ground. And that skill set really translated, into my civilian life almost seamlessly, because in my advocacy work today, whether I'm sitting with a government official or a corporate executive, I'm still working to build that relationship. I'm still trying to find shared interests and, get people to buy into a bigger mission.
That's awesome. And of course, the bigger mission is helping those that have served come back in transition into civilian life, which isn't always easy. As you mentioned, a lot of the struggles that our transitioning veterans have is not being able to connect with individuals in their community. For what it's worth, you grew up in the military community. You and I mean, I was 17 when I signed up, 18 when I shipped out. I was just over 21 when I was going to college with a bunch of 18-year-olds, almost 22, and it's hard, as you said, it's hard to assimilate and to find common ground with individuals that don't, number one, don't understand the military because they've never been in the military, and number two, might have a wrong perception of the military because you never know what kind of YouTube video or social media they're latched onto these days with so much going on in the military, or so much going on the internet about the military. So you have individuals transitioning out and facing these challenges, and you're helping them become business owners, become harnessing that military entrepreneurial spirit. So you want to talk a little bit about the Veterans Chamber of Commerce for veterans who might be transitioning out or might be in school saying, I have this great idea and I want to be in business for myself.
Yeah, well, actually, the idea of the Veterans Chamber of Commerce started actually outside of veteran advocacy. I work for Chicago Transit Authority under the infrastructure division, and I'm also on the transportation subcommittee at the Union League Club. And just being part of the CTA, being part of that transportation committee, I'm like, I have privy of a lot of these infrastructure projects that are going on. And I'm seeing the billions of dollars that are getting invested in our infrastructure, in our aging infrastructure, our roads, our bridges, our transit systems. And, seeing the amount of veterans that are actually getting their slice of the pie, I should say, as far as government contracts and stuff, it's a little bothersome. I don't see enough veterans getting contracts. One of my biggest things is pushing for various set asides because, one of the biggest barriers to successful transition is economic opportunities. And being the Veterans Chamber of Commerce, our goal is to, one, advocate for the veteran businesses, advocate in Springfield, advocate with public-private sectors, educate the veteran business owners on, local certifications and, bidding opportunities throughout various local government entities, and promotion, promoting these local businesses to these public entities that are looking for, pipe fitter outfits, plumbing outfits, t-shirt companies, and, helping them obtain, meaningful work. I would say I'm very excited because the first year of this was the first year of creating this Veterans Chamber of Commerce was very difficult. A lot of paperwork. The easiest thing was to create the articles. Then it was, took me 6 months to get an not-for-profit status. And then after that, I had to create a team of like-minded veterans that actually wanted to, make this happen, which was pretty easy, actually. Over 15 years veteran advocacy, being around the veteran footprint, I kind of already had an idea who would have wanted to be a part of this. And we're still working hard. On making this happen. I'm pretty excited to say this month we're about to launch membership. I was focused more on building relationships with legislators and procurement agencies at this point, and various other veteran service organizations that provide services to veteran business owners, that, you know, I wanted to build those relationships first before I actually created the membership, because, well, without those relationships, what are people actually joining for?
Oh,
So pretty
absolutely.
exciting.
And I think that the veteran Chamber of Commerce gives that sense of belonging and comradeship. And from the event or two that I've gone to of your organization, I think you welcome people with open arms and you make them feel, included. Which I'm sitting here thinking and talking to you is I know a veteran owned business here, a Marine Corps veteran. She does some marketing materials, and I was just thinking she's out here in the burbs, but I was just thinking, wow, Frank's talking about membership, and she would be great in, as a business owner or a business supporter. Now, your chambers of commerce are all about people that are civically engaged and also engaged in business, and so anybody can join your chamber of commerce. I believe you're trying to make it a statewide reach, so that you encompass a lot of folks, a lot of veterans that might need a direction. So what's your website, or how can they get more information about the Veteran Chamber of Commerce?
Yeah, our website is www.veteranchamber.org.
Very simple, very simple. I just want to give a shout out. A couple of people joined us on the Facebook. No really questions, but we have Roger and Bob Dunn joining us this morning. So good morning to those guys. And again, good morning to everybody that's tuning in with us. Again, we have Frank Gutierrez from the Veteran Chamber of Commerce and also on the Union League Club's Military and Veterans Affairs Subcommittee. Now, a lot of people out here in the burbs, they're not really that familiar with the Union League Club. It is a club in downtown Chicago. And do you want to just give us out here in the burbs a little snapshot of the Union League and exactly what are you doing in the Military and Veterans Affairs Subcommittee? Just really interested to hear how that nugget is playing out, and how you're doing great things again for our veterans and military families in conjunction with the Union League Club.
Yes. Yeah, for me to talk about the Union League Club, first I'm going to want to kind of like discuss how I learned about the Union League Club. Uh, After my last tour in Afghanistan, I decided to make a career change. So I'm like in my mid 30s, going back to school. And, I'm actually taking it serious this time. I started, doing all these extra credit assignments. My history teacher asked me if I wanted to do extra credit at the Union League Club. I'm like, Union League Club, what's that? She's like, oh, well, I'll explain more later. I'm like, well, what's the event? And she was like, Nazi propaganda. And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, Nazi propaganda interests me. Not that Nazis interest me, but the fact that, military doctrine, U.S. doctrine is based off of, you know, Nazi propaganda made me interested in attending. So I attended this event. I'm talking to my history teacher. She's explaining to me what the club is. Starts talking to me about how they were supporting the Union Army during the Civil War, and even after the war, they helped pick up the pieces, bring the country back together, and in fast forward to maybe like not necessarily present time, but 2000s. Uh, Dick Durbin sitting in the club with a young Senator Barack Obama, and he's talking him into running for president. So that's the kind of club this is. And the Military and Veterans Affairs Subcommittee is a committee that makes sure that this club doesn't really forget where its roots come from, military service. And our goal is to, just bridge that civil military gap between not only the veteran and currently serving members of the club and, its civilian counterparts, but, veterans, military, and civilians across, this whole city.
I
Did
know a
I?
couple people that are members of the club, military folks that are members of the club, our mutual friends, Jan and Jeannie, and a couple people speak highly of the Union League clubs, um, just service to the community and how open they've been to supporting military events. I've been there for several military events now, and it's always been a top-notch event, and they appear to be a top-notch organization.
Yes, yes, very, very top notch, and we're actually getting in the middle of focusing on improving transition for military service members and spouses as they, start the new chapter of their lives. We're having a few events. We're having a few events with a lot of corporate executives, business leaders, and government entities to really, really harp on veteran hiring and other various economic opportunities available.
And then when you talk about transition, as one of the lead guys of the Cook County Veterans Assistance Commission, I was just in Springfield talking about the Illinois Association of Veterans Assistance Commissions. Um, it's important that individuals coming out of the military, and I talk to my son about this all the time, to document everything into his book, his record. But it's so important when you're having these events to also have the Veterans Assistance Commission there, or with the Illinois Veteran Service Officer, because the minute you get out of service, you should be in touch with the VA.
Yes. Yes, and I'm a big proponent of the VA and the VACCC. They at times it sounds like competing agencies, but they're actually very different, and they have different missions. Uh, Very proud of the Veterans Assistance Commission of Cook County and where they are today. And it didn't happen overnight. It took several years. Over the past few years, many veterans in the community have worked really hard, not just to improve the services that we offer, but most importantly, restore its credibility. Because for several years, the VACCC, was an unknown entity. It had a lot of its flaws, but I mean, things are getting a lot better. I would say the biggest challenge within the VAC was actually securing the foundational support we needed to actually run like a legitimate agency. I mean, it went from not having a website to getting one built. That took forever, but now we have one. We didn't really get the HR support we needed at first, and we went, over a year, maybe a year and a half without hiring our first hire. And for a time, we operated out, and we still do operate out of a basement of a juvenile detention center. But we've made a lot of progress as well, and we couldn't have done it without our membership. Couldn't have done it without Cook County commissioners and their support, and then veteran advocates like yourself, speaking in front of the commission to support us. You remember our budget was $471,000, and now we're at 2.1 or $2.7 million today. We even have a larger staff, and for the first time, we have veteran service officers, which is amazing.
No, it took a lot, and it took a lot of advocacy from the Illinois Veterans Assistance Commission Council overall, and working hard with the Veterans Assistance Commission of Cook County, as you said, the VA CC. But we did. We had to do. This is some of the things I talk to people about Springfield. Is sometimes we have to pass laws that are technical in nature that tell departments, or in this case, counties, kind of how to function, and we had to update our laws a couple of years ago to better support the best veteran assistance commissions in the counties of which they are. We have a law this year that is going to create multi-district VACs in the southern part of Illinois, because the southern part of Illinois doesn't have the population of veterans as Cook County does. Now, I'm told that Cook County has while the state has 600, roughly about 600,000 veterans, Cook County has over 100, maybe 200,000 veterans in it. It's a very, very large concentration of veterans. And for many years, as you said, the Cook County Board had grossly underfunded the VAC, which again is a disservice to our veterans. And so
Yeah.
working towards more financial backing from the commission, and I think the chair is Commissioner Donna Miller still, and she's very supportive of veterans, and so just serving all the population of veterans in Cook County is what the VAC is about, and the VAC in anybody's county is about helping veterans.
Yes. Yes. And when I first heard about the VAC, it was in the end of 2021. Knowing many veterans that are no longer with us today, that took their lives just because they were going through financial difficulties and not being able to get out of that pit they were in, that hole they were in. Knowing about this organization now, I mean, we're not only an organization that assists with financial stability, it's an organization that saves lives. And I tell that to people every day. And the more veterans we serve, the more lives we save. Which I'm very.
And the Veterans Assistance Commission can assist with unplanned expenditures, maybe a rent or food insecurity or some help. Now, you can't like continually do that, but if there's an emergency, the Veterans Assistance Commission can help, and the Veterans Assistance Commission can look to ensure that the veterans getting the benefits that they've earned and deserved. And sometimes veterans are struggling because they haven't had a review of their documentation or submitted paperwork in which they might be owed more benefit to help them just basically survive.
Yes. Yeah. So, the Veterans Assistance Commission of Cook County, although other VACs have different benefits, we provide rental mortgage assistance every 12 months, up to $1,500. We provide utility assistance, your gas, your water, your electricity. We provide food assistance, even clothing and transportation assistance. And we also provide burial assistance for veterans that pass away to their families.
Well, definitely. And veterans, we have Abraham Lincoln National Cemetery, and then I think helping the families fill out the forms for the VA, because they could get a free headstone, and individuals don't know those benefits are around either.
Yeah. One thing I do have to say is Superintendent Elizabeth Soto, she's leading the way in the office. She works really hard. She works really hard and has built a team that is very selfless. Very selfless. Their salary, they're not working 40 hours. They're working 50, 60 hours a week at times. And me being president of VAC, I never really thought I would ever utilize their services, but when my uncle, Uncle Jesse, he passed away recently, and Elizabeth, out of nowhere, yeah, not out of nowhere, but it was like 9 o'clock at night when I was just talking to her about my uncle passing, and right then and there, she was already taking care of his family on a Friday night. And I didn't tell her, I wasn't talking to her to get the assistant. I was just talking to her because uh, the office, the executive board, we talk. We're more than just we all have more than just a professional relationship. It's a bit of a family.
Oh, that's excellent. And that's what our veterans need. They need to find the family in this world that we're living in, trying to navigate. And it's always good to have a person you can call, even at 9 o'clock on a Friday night, that's going to pick up the phone and certainly be there for you. So I know I've gotten text messages from folks at all hours in need of just sometimes just somebody to listen to you or to be there for you. So, well, that's I mean, I can't emphasize how much of a service that you and all that you're doing in the community for veterans, from the CTA modernizing their veteran recruitment, to the Veterans Chamber of Commerce, to the president of the Veterans Assistance Commission of Cook County, to your service in the Marine Corps and the Army Reserve. I mean, you're certainly doing and completing the mission. And the mission is to be there for our veterans and to make sure that everything, and that's how I feel too. I tell my daughter all the time, I'm trying to change the world one person at a time. And Frank, you're trying to change the world one person at a time. And if more people would do that, then we'd have an incredible place to call home. And I think as I've talked to people, and I've met people in other states, Illinois is really leading the way in supporting our veterans and being there for our veteran community. And it's from leadership such as yourself on the local level, and I try my best on the state level. But certainly we need to make sure that veterans are involved and being those change agents for those who need it, who might be struggling. So
Yes.
I see the outline of your dog in the back. Certainly, it looks a little bit like a husky you got there, a brown and white husky.
It's Chewy. It's Chewy. I'm dog sitting for a veteran on military leave.
Oh, wonderful. Well,
Yeah.
our four-legged family friends, especially in the veteran community, our four-legged family is so important as well. For
Yes.
those times that you know, that blessed healing of our furry friends and our furry families is incredible. The amount of pleasure that a dog can give, which we do support, Canine for Veterans and other animals, which with regards to that, we've passed legislation to waive the fees for veterans adopting dogs. So again, Illinois has been working really hard to be there for every aspect of our veterans' life, and Frank, you've been there as well. So May is Military Appreciation Month, and we certainly appreciate all you do, Frank, for the veterans community. Is there anything I didn't touch on today, or you want to talk about your vision for future veteran support or economic opportunity in Illinois, or anything else you want to touch on for our podcast today?
I do have to give a shout out to Chicago Transit Authority, because when they let me put together the Veteran Employee Resource Group a little over 10 years ago today, uh, yeah, there were a lot of veterans that just, you know, were isolated. And fast forward 10 years, a lot of them utilized the educational benefits that were, offered to them at no cost to themselves, at no cost to their benefits. And some of them went up through the ranks. Some of them went up through the ranks. Some of them even doubled their salary over time, which, improves their economic, you know, well, which improves their spending power. But like one of our biggest accomplishments was, veteran hiring last year we hired over 120 veterans, and which makes up about 25% of our current veteran workforce. And I'm hoping this year we do just as well. And it's a combined effort. It's a combined effort with the veteran employees that are advocating for the you know for veteran hiring, and our human resources that works tirelessly, you know, looking for and trying to hire veterans when they're qualified to do the job. So I really want to give a shout out to CTA because, they didn't only let me put together this group, but they owned it. They actually took ownership, and, they made my passion their passion.
Oh no, that's an excellent point that you bring up, and not only with CTA, but I'm seeing in other businesses that I've actually visited other business veteran groups within their job function. For example, last year I was able to visit with Fermilab's veteran resource group, and I think that is so powerful. And way back in the day, I'd go on business tours right when I was starting as a state rep, and formerly when I was an alderman, and I'd ask them, how many veterans do you have here, and what do you do for veterans? And the answer was, well, we buy them lunch on Veterans Day. And I'd be like, well, you should really get in touch with your veteran community in your workplace, and through initiatives such as yours and others. Now I'm being invited to or in contact with veteran resource groups, veteran support groups at NICOR and at Fermilab and at AAR and throughout, and now at CTA. I'll be happy to visit your CTA group and hear what those veterans have to say. But now, as a collective voice, the veterans in the communities, in the job places that they spend so much time with, can have impact and influence on the policies and some of the operations, and they've proven time and time again to be a huge asset to any community when you do a veteran resource group or a veteran support group. And at every university. Now, I went to NIU, oh, way back in the 90s. That's how old I am. But NIU didn't have any student veteran association or veteran supports or pretty much anything. And now it really is commendable that our universities, our community colleges, our private universities have uh, student veterans associations as well to help veterans and military families get through college and hopefully get a sound foundation going forward. So you're to be commended, Frank, by certainly paving the way 10 years ago.
Oh no, thank you. And you know what? We will give you an invite now that you bring that up. Uh, and yes, you're correct. You're correct. Going to school in 2003, as I was transitioning from the Marine Corps, was definitely different from me going to school in 2014. Like night and day. A lot more support services, and actually these services increase your ability to succeed. But
And
yes.
absolutely, that's what we're about, making sure that all our veterans succeed. They've given so much for our country. The least we can do is make sure that they are successful. Unlike you, Frank, I only deployed to Okinawa. I was on the back lines in the back office processing all the paperwork back then. There really wasn't that much done on computers when I was in. It was all my two-hole punch and a printer. So
Yeah.
certainly I didn't see as much as many other people have seen, and as you shared your story. But we can do better. We can always do better. We can always support our veterans to the highest capable that we can, right?
Yes, and I have a feeling that we will continue to do better, especially with people like you taking the lead. It's
Well,
much
and you too,
appreciated.
Frank. It's a team effort here.
Yes.
Well, wonderful. Well, thank you, Frank. Again, Frank Gutierrez, just an overall amazing advocate, veteran, and doing so much. So with that, I'm going to transition over to my Springfield update. Frank, you can hang with us or you can pop off, whatever you need to do, but going to give a little bit of an update from Springfield that is going to be this week. So thanks so much, Frank.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. All right, so Springfield, what's going on in Springfield? Well, as you know, we have roughly 2 weeks left in Springfield. We end our session on May 31st. All these big issues might come together: transit funding, pensions, along with a budget. As you know, the governor's office released our revenues decrease by about 500 million. And so last week we were looking at our budgets and making some recommendations for reductions, not as much spending, keeping some line items flat, and we're going to continue to work on the budget as well. So that is pretty much going to be the main focus for these last 2 weeks. A couple bills are advancing. My bill advanced. It passed the House, going to the Senate, advanced in the Senate. The initiative of the Department of Defense with regard to assisting victims of domestic violence who are serving in the armed forces in Illinois. We've talked about this before. This provides for a special fund to allow these individuals who are serving here, might be far away from family, might not have that many friends when they just might have gotten here, but giving them some supports with regards to being able to fund things such as transportation and expenses, unfortunately, if they are a victim of domestic violence. That is moving in the Senate. Working on the bill, it was Senator Tracy's bill in the Senate. I picked it up in the House with the Multi-County Veterans Assistance Bill. So, as I said in my conversations with Frank, down south, the population just isn't there for one county to be able to have their own Veterans Assistance Commission. Now, here in the burbs, we do have that. We have the Will County Veterans Assistance, the Kendall County, the Kane County, DuPage County in our area. So Lake County, so many counties in the suburbs of Chicago have Veterans Assistance Commissions, but not downstate. So this bill allows for multi-county Veterans Assistance Commissions. We did have to do an amendment to, there's some language cleanup from the Attorney General's office, but hopefully that amendment will be passed on to committee. We can look at that and pass it on to the House floor, and then pass the bill off to the governor. Nope, I take that back. If we amend it in the House, we have to send it back to the Senate to concur. So got to get that moving this week. Also, the Military Justice Reform Bill, Senator Belt passed it in the Senate. I picked it up in the House. This is just aligning the Military Code of Justice with regards to the federal law. So this is a little bit of technical, but federal military regulations, we want to make sure they modernized some offense classifications. So we need to update, federal government updates theirs, we need to update ours. And then again, a small pension bill for the state employees retirement system, which allows them to make sure they get paid fully. We passed it. It's on second reading in the House, so getting ready to hopefully go to the governor. And then a bill that I'm working with, Amy Briel, she's a newer rep. Just got elected, sworn in this year. So certainly it is moving in the Senate, and it really looks at believe it or not, it's one of those bills that we do have to pass in order to have the department, but it requires the Department of Children and Family Services to conduct a criminal records background check prior to placement of a child with a relative. Now, so you think this should be automatic, but not all relatives are upstanding or should be given the custody of a child. So the background check prior to placement is required now. I know, should have been required already, but it did with a relative or prospective foster or adoptive parent. The final approval placement shall not be granted if the background check reveals that the relative prospective foster or adoptive parent or any other adult living in the home has a felony conviction for human trafficking or sex trafficking. Certainly, these are red flags that unfortunately the department should have been doing, but we had to pass a bill with regards to that. So definitely, that's quite the bills that we have to pass. Looking at supporting our nonprofits, I was supportive of this bill, Rita Mayfield's bill. It is in the Senate, and it creates the nonprofit investment pool. So small nonprofits, they might not have as much assets to invest as bigger organizations, but if the small nonprofits pool all their investment funds together, they can get better rates of return at cheaper prices. It's similar to what we did with the police and fire pension consolidation fund. We consolidated their investments so that they get a better rate of return, lower costs, and more professional investing. So certainly that's moving. And then there's a bill with Edgar Gonzalez that just looks at adjusting our hiring practices, and it's a bit of a technical bill. Now, we are supportive, and Representative Guayo Cuellar looking at a 911. So here's what we need to do. And this is really focused at Chicagoland area. It's focuses on a municipality with a population of over 500,000, which would be Chicago, but their network doesn't interface with the state. Their 911 operator system doesn't interface with the state. So it's really looking at that. They need to establish the network to work with our Illinois State Police. In addition to that, all other local public agencies operating a 911 system need to have a plan submitted by the commission or the administrator. This is also that we can work together. We are grandfathering in some things, but really we need to have a statewide 911 system that works together through all the municipalities, because in our area we have mutual aid. So if a 911 calls in and we need mutual aid, we need the other counties to come in, we need the other towns to come in to help. We saw that, we've seen that in the past. We need to make sure that the system is up and running. Now, Senator Turner had a proposal to exempt tiny homes for veterans from certain regulations. It is placed on the House calendar of third reading, and that might be going off to the governor's office. So supporting the concept of tiny homes for veterans to help with our homeless veteran population and give them some stability in their life without the large responsibility of taking care of a house. This is a tiny house, and you would think, well, why don't we just put veterans in like apartments and townhomes? Well, some veterans do need space and do need to have their own space. Not connected apartments can be loud, they can be disruptive, and we don't know what some of the veterans have been going through. So giving them a small space of their own is ideal. Working with that bill, and then Senator Murphy's bills in the House to have Alzheimer's insurance coverage. Believe it or not, some insurance companies do not cover Alzheimer's related treatments, and it's very unfortunate. So this is a bill in Illinois. These bills are only for insurance companies in Illinois for Alzheimer's. And then finally, this is a bill that has been worked on. Senator Fauci in the Senate, also Representative Ammons, is the Monifer Aquifer. We've talked about that before. Really looking at protecting our aquifers and environmental protections for sole source aquifers. It's mind-boggling to me, but the underlying premise is, of course, financial gain for folks that have to abide by environmental protections for our water, and there are individuals that want to pollute our waterways because it would be a cheaper cheaper way to go about making more profits. But in Illinois, we're trying really hard to maintain our water quality and our underground um, aquifers. Now, uh, there was a tragic incident of the death of Sonia Macy, and it was tragic in that it was at the hand of a police officer responding to a call at her house for a suspected person, I believe, um, that she wanted some help with. And in looking at the law enforcement hiring standards, we found that there's not a lot of background checks with regards to the hiring, believe it or not. And the individual had been let go from several other jurisdictions and had questions in his employment. So this bill that was passed out of the Senate, out of the House, it passed the Senate virtually unanimously, passed the House virtually unanimously, bipartisan both ways, would prohibit police departments from making final employment offers to probationary officers or new hires unless they have thoroughly reviewed all prior employment records. This includes background investigations, psychological and fitness tests for duty exams, job performance records, and any history of arrests or administrative investigations. So it expands the establishment of the sheriff's merit boards and commissions to counties with populations of at least 75,000. So again, bipartisan bill out of the Senate, bipartisan bill out of the House, now heads to the governor's desk. Completely unanimously in the Senate, virtually unanimously in the House. So when it's good law, we come together and we work really hard with regards to ensuring that there is public safety and strengthening law enforcement hiring standards in the state. So certainly that's a good thing. And then looking at a bill that would raise the threshold for secure firearm storage from 14 to 18, requiring parents and guardians to lock up their firearms and ammunition separately. So certainly keeping a firearm loaded is in the household is not a good thing. They should be as in many people I know that are in the military community, including in my household, they need to be locked up in a safe, in a cabinet, unloaded, stored separately. There are also gun locks you can use as well. Firearm deaths and suicide are on the rise, and certainly something we need to do better at. And you shouldn't need a law to do that. You can just be a responsible firearm owner as well. And then we advanced the Road Safety and Fairness Act that would raise the age in which drivers are required to take behind the wheel tests from 79 to 87. You might still need to do vision tests as part of the renewal, but certainly this really looks at not capabilities of driving, not just based on your age. So it is currently under review at the Senate. And then we're working with legislation led by Senator Willie Preston to require the Illinois Department of Corrections to provide comprehensive reentry services to people being released from correctional services. So it would include housing, employment, healthcare, education, and counseling. Certainly, if individuals complete their sentence for whatever crime they've done, we need to make sure that they can integrate and be individuals. And so employment and education and housing are certainly important factors that we need to make sure are in place. And then actually, I had just a friend of mine whose newborn was in the NICU for several days. And so here is a bill that would guarantee job protection leave for parents of newborns in NICU care. So employees that Mid-sized businesses could receive up to 10 days unpaid leave, while those in larger firms could take up to 20 days, in addition to protections under FMLA. So, when your child is a newborn and it's in the NICU, and it's as I've known friends whose children were born early, or with a condition, or with an unknown allergy, or whatever it is. If they wind up in the NICU, it's got to be so stressful. And so the state of Illinois is there to allow that you would not lose your job if you have to take time off to be there with your newborn. So certainly that's a law that we're working on. And then we're expanding the controlled substance law to add new synthetic drugs, include fentanyl, and veterinary sedatives like Axidine. The bill is going in line with federal standards and growing concerns about emerging dangerous substances in the communities. And then working again, continuing to work on the teacher shortage. I've talked about this before, and really looking at what we can do to support teachers in this, as Frank said, in this different time, in this different age. Teachers do a whole lot more than they did even 10 years ago when my kids were in grade school. Certainly things have changed a lot, and need to support our teachers with regards to that. And then a couple other things that might be interesting to you that we are looking at in the Senate and the House to go to the governor would be rewilding legislation. So it would include restoring native species, reintroducing keystone predators, and receiving ecosystems throughout the state, reviving these ecosystems. So it would be the first state in the country to adopt legislation to ecological preservation. What that is important, and is that once, like, um, farmland, I've known people that have done that, they've taken over the family farm and they don't want to farm it anymore, then they return it back to its natural state. And this is a little bit of helping out with that as well. And then I've talked about this before, and talking about it again. Um, so legislation was filed to work on the Bears relocating to Arlington Heights. There is a bill that was filed by Representative Mary Beth Canty that would establish long-term property tax certainty, not exclusive to the Bears, but could be key to the relocation plans. Senator Mark Walker, that represents that area as well, are working on negotiations as well. So nothing set in stone yet, but it looks like the new mayor of Arlington Heights is working really hard to get the Bears to Arlington Heights. And then we touched a little bit about transit. We've talked about this before. Part of the budget issue is a $770 million deficit with transit. It's not just CTA, like Frank talked about, it's Metro, it's also PACE, under the governance of the Regional Transportation Authority. We are looking at working with them. That is Evedina Delgado in the House, and Senator Ram Milovam in the Senate. They are working on that. They said that discussions have been very productive, and that hopefully in the next 2 weeks, we can certainly make sure that we have a good plan in place, and making sure that they get the funding that they need to succeed. I know Metro and Pace out here are really important. They are very important in the city as well. So working with regards to that. So again, thank you, Roger and Bob Dunn, and everybody that's tuned in. Thank you for those that have been talking and listening on Spotify, Coffee with Kiffy. And hope you have a great May. Um, a great week. And again, we will not be here on Memorial Day. Please take time to honor those that gave the ultimate sacrifice. And again, May is Military Appreciation Month. So we should appreciate those that have served in an act, not just in words. So show your appreciation through acts. How about with your local veterans, VFW, American Legion, veteran resource groups, or other veteran supports in your area? So with that, I hope you have a wonderful week ahead. I hope you have a good Memorial Day, and look forward to coming back in contact with you in June. I can't believe it. The year's almost halfway over. So you take care and have a great day.